Namo Amitabha Buddha. Hello everyone. So in this video, I'd like to share how I overcame depression and mental illness in my early 20s. The reason why I want to share about this experience is because it seems to be very common in the world that a lot of people are experiencing some kind of mental disorders. So hopefully my personal experiences might be able to help those who are going through similar experiences. But before I share my experiences, I also like to make a few disclaimers. So hopefully no one might misunderstand what I'm gonna say. So this is not, of course, professional advice. I am no expert in depression and mental illnesses. And if you feel you need to seek medical help, medical assistance, really do what you feel the best in your heart, because everyone's condition is different. And also secondly, I'm definitely not trying to undermine anybody's mental illnesses. I know how tough it is for people who are experiencing mental disorders. But in this video, I'm gonna use the word illusions and real a lot. But these two words actually carry completely different meanings in Buddhism than how we might use them in the conventional world. So when I use these two words, I mean the meanings in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, what we call illusions are things that can be changed. For things that can be changed or are changing, or it does not have this permanent and fixed nature, then we call them illusions. For things that are real in Buddhism are things that are absolutely unchanged. It has this constant, permanent and fixed nature. Then we call them real. So note that when I use these two words, I do not mean the meanings that how we might use them in the conventional world, but rather I'm referring to their meanings in Buddhism. So in Buddhism, we call this world an illusional world, and we're not saying it does not exist, but rather all things here are impermanent and are temporary in nature. So that's why we call it an illusion. Okay, so I'm gonna share my experience now. So this happened when I was early 20s, when my father passed away. In fact, my father was actually murdered. And I will spare you with the most horrifying details about what had happened, because this would really be the last thing I like to recall again in my mind. So just knew that impermanence can really strike us in all forms in the least possible way we might imagine. And what happened was just too terrifying. So when I first heard of this, I felt like my whole world just collapsed. So my relationship with my father was actually very close, and he really served as a mentor. And at that time, I was not on this path. I did not know anything about this. I was very much living a conventional life and pursuing the so-called conventional success. Everything I looked was from the external. I was really trying to pursue happiness from the external world in all different ways. I was in my final year of bachelor, and I was preparing for the entrance exam for law school. And at that time, I was also in a complete dysfunctional relationship. It was really towards the end of the relationship. It seemed that everything came at the same time, and I was under tremendous stress and pressure. I just did not know how to cope, and most importantly, I did not know really what to do when my father passed away. So it really felt like all of a sudden my whole world had been taken away, and I was absolutely helpless, devastated, and of course extremely depressed. And I didn't know what depression was like until it really took the toll on me. And for 3 months, I just cried, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it. I literally cried for 3 months. I locked myself in my room and just cried for 3 months. I just did not go out because I had no energy. When you felt like your life really had no meaning, because the most important thing has been taken away from you. So that was kind of how I experienced. And I had no energy, absolutely zero energy to do anything. I could not even cook for myself. All I could do was cry cry until I really had no tear anymore. I was so exhausted out of crying, out of so much sadness, so much suffering in my life. So basically I felt that was really like the end of the world. And I really had many times the suicidal thoughts. I thought, what's the point of life? What is the point of living? If my father had died, I should just die. Why this world is so cruel? So I had a lot of negative thoughts, the darkest thoughts in my mind, and also thought about how I should commit suicide. After 3 months of this extreme, exhaustive crying, depression, and extreme suffering in my life, a thought just came to me that I would either end my life, or I should really try just some ways to help myself out of this situation. So eventually it was also due to the love for my mother, and also the love for life, and also maybe some kind of intuition that told me to actually go out and to seek help. So I had suicidal thoughts, but I did not actually bring myself to do it. There was no sort of actual suicidal attempt, also because I think I still have love for life, and I had love for my mother, and I thought, what would my mother do if I also took my life away? Then she would totally lose any form of support, like the last form of support she might have in this world. And I also thought about my family, also thought about my father. If my father was alive, then he would really not want to see me like this. So I actually went out the first time after 3 months, and because I cried so much, my eyes were so sore, and I still remember how it was like when I first saw the glimpse of light, like the sun came into my eyes, and my eyes felt like burning. But what happened when you have been crying for 3 months? Your eyes were just so sore out of crying, and when you first exposed your eyes to the sun, they were very sensitive, and I had to wear the sunglasses everywhere I went for quite a while. So I eventually dragged myself into the counseling room in my uni and tried to seek help. First time I went into a therapy session and talked with a therapist, I just felt she could not help my problems, and also because I felt I was really trying very hard to try to describe my problems, what I had experienced to the therapist, and that somehow triggered even more unpleasant memories and experiences when I thought about what happened. And when I tried to describe this to a stranger, I found really isn't any connection there. So I just stopped completely going to any therapy session after the first session. And I'm not trying to undermine any therapists out there for their credibility, but it was just my personal experience from my particular case. I did not feel helpful. Next thing I did was really to try to find out the information online, and I found this event really also triggered the acceleration of my own awakening. And that was when I began to start reading about some books online, like this New Age spiritual self-help books, and also some Buddhist books. And in hindsight, it was also the Buddhist wisdom that helped me overcome this. So it was really upon the realization that all is impermanent that sort of helped me to accept this truth. And also I had to die as well. If in the end I had to face death, then why the hurry to bother to commit suicide to end my life? Death is inevitable for everyone in this world, and all is impermanent. So why not just make this life experience a bit better? Why not just try to live every day as if it was my last day? So somehow my mind just took a change from this vicious cycle of negativity, of complaining, to this somewhat logical reasoning with myself. So the good thing about impermanent is that yes, all the good memories and experiences in life are impermanent, but so are the bad experiences and bad memories. Because if our life here on earth is impermanent, how can anything else we experience in this world be permanent? And if we examine our thoughts, all our thoughts, negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, all of these are also temporary in nature and they can be changed, or they are changing actually all the time. So every day we can just have so many thoughts. So if they can be changed or they're changing, then in Buddhism we call them illusions. They are not permanent in nature. So mental disorders are also caused by our negative thoughts, and especially by our attachment to negative thoughts, to a series of negative thoughts, which generate the vicious cycle of negativity. And also it generates the negative responses to our external environment and to internal afflictions. If somehow we can realize that all the negative thoughts, whatever they are just illusions in nature. If we can just treat whatever thoughts, whatever negative thoughts we might be thinking, all the defilemental states as they are, without giving so much attachment, attention, and energy to them, that immediately their effect on us will be much less. And if we somehow can also shift our focus from our attachment to all these defilemental states to other things in life that could bring more positivity and more light in our life, then I trust our conditions will be better. And it was also really through thinking about other people's suffering, so not just my own sufferings. When I start thinking about other people's sufferings, it really helped me to expand my heart, to jump out of my little world of suffering. And at that time, I also met a friend from Africa who also had similar experience, except maybe 100 times worse than I did. And she still seemed to be quite positive. I feel what might have helped us to jump out of our sufferings is also really to see the sufferings of other people. Think about the kids in Africa that had nothing to eat. Think about those innocent people who died in war. Think about just other people's sufferings out there can really help us expand our heart, expand our mind, and also be grateful for what we had. It was also gratitude. At least I still have my mother, and I did not have to worry about money, food, all this. I had to be very grateful, and I also wrote on my paper like things I'm grateful for in my life. And it was also like the video I shared, the power of gratitude, how gratitude can really help transform and shift our perspectives. And it was really about implementing positive changes in my life. First of all, to just collect myself and to start with small steps to try to do simple things in life, that to make myself again back into this normal life, to function properly, to really try to be more positive in my life, and also to have gratitude, to look at the things I already have, and also really to shift the focus, to transform my energy from negative to positive. So before, I was very much just focused on my own sadness, my suffering, my depression, the mind. I was very much attached to this illusional mind. And then I shift this focus to other things in my life that could bring more positivity. So I also started to practice yoga and meditation, and I went traveling for a while. So I tried to do things that can help me shift my focus from being too much attached to the defilemental states to things that could bring me more positivity, more joy and happiness. And eventually I slowly got out of this darkest period in my life. So at the beginning it's definitely not easy, but if we really have the determination that we want to change, then we shall really try our best to shift our attachment to defilemental states to positivity. Or if we can just treat all the negative thoughts, all this illusion of thoughts as they are, without giving so much attachment and attention to them, then I trust our conditions will be better. And we can also focus on things that could bring us more positivity, more joy, and more light in our life. So of course everyone's journey is different, and there are many ways to do this. For some other people, maybe they like drawing, then they can try out art therapy. And for near-full practitioners, one can also recite the name of Amitabha Buddha to help to shift our attachment to defilemental states, our attachment to negativity, to the name of Amitabha Buddha, to infinite light and life. Or if you have a stronger connection to Guan Yin, you can also recite the name of Guan Yin. So what we need to do is, as long as we can shift our focus, shift our habitual tendency to defilemental states, to positivity, or if we can just treat all these illusions as they are, then we will not be affected by them so much. And there have been people whose depression has been overcome by practicing Nianfo. For instance, my grandma, she practiced Nianfo for 2 months and her condition has been much better. I might share about her case some other time. So in us, we really have the higher wisdom, or some people call it the source, the divine, the God, or the Buddha nature in Buddhism. And it can really guide us. So sometimes we hear completely different voices, different thoughts in our mind. Those that are trying to shift us towards the light, those that are trying to bring us more positivity in our life are really the ones we shall listen to. And also now, as Buddhists, we know there is no absolute death. What died is just this physical body, but the consciousness still remains. So I very much believe that my father still exists, except he is in a different form, and I don't know which realm he might ended up in the cycle of reincarnation. But 1 month after he passed, I had a vivid dream of him. And in the dream, he told me that he was very well and told me to not to worry. So I also felt quite comforted by the dream. But of course, I don't know for certain which realm he might ended up unless I seek rebirth to the Pure Land. So once we seek rebirth to the Pure Land after this life, then we will be able to tell where all our past life parents are. And if we see their suffering, we can also try to help them. So in hindsight, I'm also grateful for all these experiences, for all the so-called unfortunate experiences in my life, because they really helped me to realize impermanent at a relatively young age, and they helped me to see the truth of life better and to help me find the purpose of my life. So I'm grateful for all the experiences, and they also made me a stronger and more resilient person. Okay, I hope this video helps, and may all beings be happy and free from sufferings. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitofo.